Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRift NoDQ. Now, before we get to the questions, I did want to introduce a very special guest. It is the 25-year anniversary of NoDQ.com, so I figured we'd bring him on here just for a few minutes to get his thoughts on the past 25 years of NoDQ. Here's the graphic for NoDQ. Oh, wait a minute. Wrong graphic. We're already screwing up here. That's a shout out to Virtue. You can check out the NoDQ review. We've done a lot of NoDQ reviews over the years, that's for sure. So shout out to Virtue. But here's the NoDQ anniversary logo, as you can see. Now, allow me to introduce the one and only good old JM Jeff Meacham.
Hey, okay, it's a little shot. Okay, that works. Yeah, wearing the anniversary shirt as only I can do. Just want to, again, thank you to everybody who's watched the two of us yahoos for 21 of these 25 years. And man, I remember being a fan back in 1998 and going to www.www.com and sending in live reports to themayhem.com from WrestleMania 2000 and the about 2,500, 2001 shows I went to. So it's been a crazy ride. And here, I don't know if I have I got a glass. Here's 25 more, brother. There you go.
Thank you for that, Jeff. Now, I do want to let everybody know in the chat room that if you would like to super chat a question, that will get priority. I do have a lot of questions here that we'll be getting to tonight. Mr. Tito sent in $2. He said, congrats on 25 years covering the industry online. I very much appreciate that, Mr. Tito. And then Interstate Kyle sent in $2 just saying, happy 25-year anniversary, Aaron. I appreciate that, Kyle. Thank you very much for that. Kyle has been on numerous videos over the years. We've met him in person several times. Great guy. Much love to Interstate Kyle. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your contributions over the years. And I do want to find the graphic I had of Kyle, of the group. Let me see if I could pull that up here in just a moment. Jeff, your thoughts on Kyle and meeting up with Virtue? That hasn't happened yet. We're working on it. But overall, your thoughts on meeting up with some of the NoDQ people in person? Your thoughts?
It's funny doing that now. And I say that because in the old days, we didn't meet up. We were the NoDQ crew. We did stuff every week. We went on location every week to shoot XMV or, the different points we would go to film talk wrestling around the neighborhood where you lived back in the day, or, just different things. And to have something, I mean, God, look at this. Look how many people are stuffed into that smash burger there at freaking downtown LA. I think that's one of my favorite pictures in the history of ever. The one there, the one out front there, LA Live there, not too long after that, same weekend, getting to go to SmackDown Live and meeting up with people there, for the premiere of SmackDown on Fox, and having David Arquette call after us instead of the other way around. It's just so weird to think back that, when we were doing XMV, it was just all of us, piling in the car and finding a spot. And now we have people coming to see us. It's just a very surreal thing for me.
Thank you for that, Jeff. And Kyle was in the back next to his grandpa. Shout out to Gary if he's watching this. And
yes, yeah,
very
cool hanging out with them the day of No Mercy 2017, and then going to the thing with Booker after. That was a long but fun day for sure.
I do want to give a shout out to Robert, who is at the very bottom in the center. Very good guy. I'm not sure if he's watching this, but if he is, Robert, I very much appreciate your friendship over the years and supporting NoDQ. And everybody in this photo, thank you guys for coming out to that. And there are some other photos I'm going to share. Jeff, I have to put this one up, and I want your thoughts on this. Tell us what is happening here.
Jesus Christ. No more cigarettes, no more smoke. And what's so funny, that is actually in my dad's sister's backyard. And she's still in that house now, which is so funny. Yeah, out in the valley, we'll put it that way. Yeah, just one of the random ass here's something we can do on XMV this week. but it turned out great. It's one of the funniest things we ever did.
That was our very first video show, XMV. That was the first graphic of Jeff and I, the first image, the first thing we ever did on camera together. We sang a song, and
yeah,
I'm not going to put up the song, but we sang a song. We even had some saxophone playing in it. Yes, I did play alto sax back in the day. So that was a fun time. And we also, here's another picture, Jeff, I wanted to throw up for you. The first interview we did with AJ Styles back in 2005. Actually, it might have been the second one. Was it the second one? Second one. So tell us how this came to be, because David Diaz asked us, like, how did our working relationship with TNA begin and develop? He asked that as an email question. So to everybody out there, like, during that period, we were interviewing people for our video show XMV. Tell us, how did that come to be with TNA? How did we get that hookup, like to interview AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels and so on and so forth? How did that come to be, Jeff?
The start really begins and ends with the lady between me and AJ Styles there. That sounds really bad out of context. SoCal Val, our dear friend Val, she actually was working for UPW, and we met her in 2004. She did a couple of segments for us on XMV, and then we went out to Vegas to do our anniversary show in October of 2004, and she was along for that ride with UPW because they had a show out at whatever the hell it was, State Line Whiskey Pete's or one of the other crazy casinos out there at State Line. And when she got on with TNA, we just kind of came along for the ride for a little while. And in addition to seeing her, we saw all these guys at PWG. This actually is on, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a balcony, but it was never designed to be a balcony because there's literally gravel under our feet. So I don't know if it was ever like supposed to be a walkway or whatever the hell it was, but we did interviews with both AJ and Christopher Daniels out there on that balcony. As a matter of fact, we also interviewed Daniels there on the ground level at that same place. It just kind of became, PWG was finding the TNA folks, and you and I and our host at the time kind of went, yeah, let's do that. And it worked out so well because we got several promos over the years, but it was really cool. To this day, SoCal Val asked after you because I saw her at WrestleMania in April, WrestleMania weekend, and she asked after you. And I said, he's living in Michigan now, so he knows all about the cold now because she lives in England, so she knows all about the cold weather too. So you guys had that in common. Yeah, she went and married herself a Brit, so good for her.
All right. Well, glad to hear she's doing well. And another picture I want to throw up. This was a 2013 meetup, yes, I believe. Are you in this? There you are. Yes, you are. You're right there at the bottom, Jeff.
In my Canyon cowboy ball cap and my Long Beach clothing company, which we were heavily working with very much in that period over at the Custodian Studios. Yeah, that was the first time you and I had gotten together for anything really since the fall of 2011. That was the first time we saw each other in person in 2 years. It was a cool day.
Thank you for that, Jeff. I do want to give a shout out to Corey Thompson. He's in that yellow SummerSlam shirt. Good guy. Yes, and Ryan Nichols, really good guy, close friend of mine. Shout out to him. I'm not sure if he's watching this, but Ryan, I miss seeing you. He lives way up there in the Pacific Northwest in Spokane, Washington. So hope he's doing well. Him and his wife, great people. And I can't name everybody. Like, there have been so many great people.
Yeah,
I'm going to try to give as many shout outs as possible, but if I miss you, I apologize. Much love to everybody. Go ahead.
Ryan will always be the guy that got me out the building the night that Brock Lesnar nearly killed John Cena. You guys all got me to the car, but Ryan was in the suite with me when this shit was going down. He had to help me out of the building. It was a very long night, but luckily you and your wife, and thank God for our ride, the other car in the group, and Ryan, like everybody, it was a team effort to get the traumatized Meech out of the Staples Center.
Thank you for that, Jeff. And This Guy Experience sent in a $2 super chat. He says, congrats, Aaron. What's next for NoDQ? For NXT 25 years. I mean, there's a lot to come. I plan on doing this till I can no longer do it. So hopefully we have another 25 years of NoDQ, and looking forward to some some new projects within No DQ, trying out some new concepts, always open to ideas. And Cleaver Colin Andrew, great guy. He's been a contributor to the site, and he's been in the chat rooms. I've met him in person several times. Awesome guy. He says, cheers to 25 years. Much love, brother. He's one of No DQ's biggest supporters. Love the guy. Thank you so much. And another guy I want to give a shout out to, Big G. Big G sent in a $5 super chat. He says, got to meet the boss man in person at my wedding. Such an awesome time. And Big G, he's always happy to be here. He's always contributing. And yeah, it was a pleasure to be at his wedding. Jeff, anything you want to say about Big G?
Well, I first want to thank him for the $25 super chat he sent in earlier.
All right. Big baller.
Yeah, where was that? It was up here. Oh yeah, it was toward the top after This Guy Experiences super chat.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. There it is. Yeah, 25 year. Yeah, and as far as what's next for 25, I always envisioned that if it remained the two of us, doing this shit, because here we are still together after 21 years doing these things, that if you ever had kids, that my boy, who actually plays guitar very well now, so he could fill the Aaron role on the guitar, and maybe your kid could do the saxophone part.
Oh, geez. Good one, Jeff. I do want to throw up a picture here. I hope Big G doesn't mind. I think we've thrown up the picture before, but here it is. There's Big G, his wedding day. Shout out to Greg Cherry, the longest reigning Wrestling Trivia Challenge champion of all time. You're second place, Jeff. So there you go. Greg Cherry, longtime friend and contributor. And of course, Virtue, host of the No DQ Review. That was us at Big G's wedding back in 2021. Jeff, it's been a wild ride. Looking forward to some more fun stuff to come. Any last words before I take control here and start answering some questions from people?
No, by all means, go ahead and throw up the. I know you said you had some No DQ centric questions that you wanted to make sure we both got to before I was forced to go out the door here. So.
All right. Well, let me. First of all, I wanted to shout out Walter Cruz, a longtime contributor. He sent in $5 the other day. He said, congrats on 25 years, and thank you for making me part of the family. I appreciate you all. Jeff, all right, I'm gonna ask you about this one here. TJS had sent in a question, said, what is the most successful story published to NoDQ.com? I know the answer. He says Pipe Bomb is the likely answer. Anything else you could think of that you thought was like a really big news story over the past 25 years?
Oh, God. Okay. Well, Punk's the only story ever to crash the site completely. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, I was in Vegas when that was going down, and I got a phone call from this guy about it. What the hell's going on out there? What are you talking about? The site just crashed. What? It was crazy. I know successful's the right word, but I would unfortunately think tragedy breeds news. So Owen Hart, Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Benoit, definitely. Like I said, I will never forget the Benoit thing, only because of two reasons. I had two completely different worlds contact me. He reached out to me via, I think, text. And then my Rocky Horror cast lead called me at work, wondering what was going on. I'm like, okay, if this many people from this many worlds are getting involved, what is going on out there in Georgia? And then we all, of course, found out what happened. So I would say the Benoit story would be the most, I don't know, like, again, successful is an odd word, but I would say the most heavily trafficked story of the last 25 years.
Definitely. I can tell you guys the top ones. WCW being sold to WWE, that was very significant, and that was early on. And then, of course, Chris Benoit. And I was en route to Yosemite for a vacation when that story broke. I mean, that was crazy. But yeah, that was significant. And then obviously CM Punk, and CM Punk quitting was a massive story for No DQ, like all the fallout from that. And then CM Punk going to AEW, and then CM Punk being fired from AEW. Like CM Punk, like he definitely generated a lot of traffic for NoDQ.com. So I guess a shout out to CM Punk for making the headlines and keeping me in business for all these years. I mean, I'm kidding, but yeah, he was a big a news generator for sure.
Yeah, I would say it was Punk would be up there. I also would think that Vince McMahon retiring and stepping down in this whole merger this year is probably a big deal too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like all the stuff with the sale has been massive. Those are the ones that stand out the most to me. But yeah, a lot of drama and controversy over the years. Wrestling is rarely dull, at least in the news headlines. There's always some drama behind the scenes, something going on, lots of gossip. That is wrestling for you. Sometimes like reality is more interesting than fiction, and in wrestling, that can certainly be the case with all the behind the scenes shenanigans.
Well, you got to figure when you first started the site, which was literally 25 years ago yesterday, we were on the road to the 1998 Survivor Series, which the Attitude Era was all up in effect. And WCW, while not really declining, it had definitely already had its last Monday Night Victory. So the business was already changing when you started this. And people don't like comprehend this until we hit birthdays every year. Dude was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
Like seriously, we were sophomores in high school when the site started. And I was just out of high school a year when I joined the media side of things. It's crazy how young babies, man. And here we are.
It's been a ride. And Heinz Family sent in $2. He said he's been a fan since 1999, which is crazy. Thank you for that, Heinz Family. He says, happy anniversary. I appreciate that very much. And shout out to Matthew, too, who left a few comments. Matthew's been contributing in the chat room. He posts on NoDQ in the comment section all the time and on Facebook. So thank you, Matthew, for your thoughts and contributions. I very much appreciate it. And Jeff, before you go, one more I want you to talk about here. This is from JJ Williams. I figured you could help me with this one too. This is a Back to the Future reference. I know you'll appreciate it. He says, if you could get into Doc Brown's DeLorean time machine, what would you change either personally or professionally that occurred within your 25 years of coverage? I'll go first. For me, it's Owen Hart. I would change that. Like that was probably the biggest tragedy in wrestling. So that would be number one for me, no doubt. What about you?
Professional coverage. Yeah, probably Owen, if I'm being honest. People expect me to say Eddie or Chris Benoit, but I think just the pardon the muffling of it, but just the moment of Owen was just sudden. It was so crazy how it happened. I remember where I was. I was at my friend Chris's house, not watching the show because we couldn't afford it at the time, so we decided to do something else. And the calls started coming in on our beepers. There you go. That's all we are, on the beepers. But personally, again, hindsight is what it is. It very much is 2020, right? Because 2020 is such a bad year. I would definitely try to make better decisions about interacting with people that we did that we worked with back in the day. I think a lot of those kind of went sideways for stupid reasons.
Here's the thing, to use your line, the mistakes you make, like if you change them, then that could change the whole outcome of your life. Like sometimes you have to make mistakes to get where you need to go. And, I don't really have any regrets about things. Like we were young.
That's fair.
We make mistakes. I've made mistakes. You've made mistakes. It happens. The key is you learn from those mistakes and you better yourself from them.
Yes, and what I've learned over the years is never keep your father waiting in the driveway when we're going to a hockey game. So I'm going to bow out.
All right, Jeff, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything you've done over the years. I very much appreciate it, Jeff.
And yes, Heinz Family, we do age. Look at the pictures from 2002. We've aged like milk. Well, I have anyway. This guy gets in better shape every year. Damn him. So thank you all very much. Love y'all.
All right, appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you. See you around. All right, guys. So I'm going to dig into these questions now. I appreciate Jeff stopping by and chatting with me for a few minutes, but this is NoDQ&A video, and there's a lot of questions. Like I said, I am going to try and get to all of the super chats first, they're taking priority, but I will get to as many questions here as possible. Big G sent in a very generous $25 super chat. So again, much love to Big G. He said, cheers to 25 years. Here's to another 25 years. He said, thanks for allowing me to be part of this crazy ride for the past 5 or 6 years. And his question was favorite Survivor Series moments. And I got, actually, funny enough, maybe because it's coming up soon, but I did get a number of Survivor Series related questions. And I did want to mention Calvin Bowman. He said, what was your favorite match at Survivor Series 2000? That wasn't really my favorite Survivor Series, but I guess Undertaker versus Kurt Angle, just because Kurt Angle had his brother there to be the stunt double. I mean, I was not a big fan of that Survivor Series, to be totally honest with you, Calvin. And Walter also wanted to know my favorite overall Survivor Series moment and which Survivor Series do you think was the best overall? So, of course, I loved the 1990 Survivor Series with the Ultimate Match of Survival with Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior standing tall at the end. And I really liked Survivor Series 2002, Shawn Michaels winning the world title in the first Elimination Chamber. So that might have actually been my favorite Survivor Series, period. And the recent Survivor Series have been hit or miss, but last year's War Games was probably the best one in the modern era with the Bloodline storyline. But yeah, I would say best overall moment was Shawn Michaels winning that world title in 2002 in that premier Elimination Chamber match. So thank you for the super chat, Big G. Psycho Jet Black sent in $2. He said, hey, Karen, is your favorite star Chelsea Green? Why would you even do that? I mean, in all seriousness, I like Chelsea Green as a performer. Like, I think she's pretty entertaining, and I will give her credit. She has made the most of her run in WWE. She hasn't been the most pushed person in WWE, but she has made the most of her television time. And at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. You have to take those precious moments you get and make the most of them. So thank you for that, Psycho Jet Black. I appreciate it. Now we move on to Josh Mansfield, another good friend, great guy, says, congrats to the big 25 Boss Man Rift. Question, which would you rather have, a Horsewomen Fatal 4-Way or 2, an Undisputed Era / Elite Fatal 4-Way? Say yes to no DQ. I guess I would like to see a Horsewoman Fatal 4-Way. I'm not really caring much about the Undisputed Era at this point in time. Not really caring that much about the Elite, but I'd love to see the OG. I presume you're talking about the WWE Horsewomen and not the MMA Horsewomen. They're two different things. But if you're talking about Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, and Bayley in a 4-way, like that would be great. Like if they could get Sasha Banks back and do that 4-way, put that at WrestleMania, that would be huge. Maybe we'll see it one day. And I wanted to throw up another picture. This was from last year. Josh Mansfield is there in the back with me in the blue. And of course, we got Greg Cherry, my wife, Caitlin, female Aaron, Caitlin's bestie. She's a great gal. Virtue and his lady, Leslie, and Colin Andrew and his wife in the back. All great people. This was in Cleveland. We had a meetup. All these people great. Love them all. So shout out to Josh Mansfield. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat. He says, seriously, what is the song that you use at the beginning of this stream? I believe that is from GarageBand. Also, here's to 25 more years of no DQ. Yeah, it is. It's one of those royalty-free songs. You've probably heard it on numerous YouTube channels. If you watch enough channels, it's just a generic song people can put on without having to worry about any copyrights or royalties or anything like that. Just some generic song. But yeah, I believe it's from GarageBand. And Mr. Tito, making a reference to that 2005 picture, says, how nice was Tim Allen on Home Improvement? I got that like a lot with that hairstyle. Let me throw up that picture again from 2005. There you go. People say I look like Jonathan Taylor Thomas in that picture. Unfortunately, I could not grow that hair even if I tried today, but it was nice to be able to grow that hair back in the day. Kind of like a tribute to Chris Jericho at the time, I would say. Shout out to James, who has been a longtime supporter. Thank you, James, for everything. And he says, I've been here since the mayhem, wrote a few columns back in the day from Web TV. Wow, that's a blast from the past. Remember Alta Vista and Real Player and all that stuff? He says, how's that for aging myself? Much love, guys. Here's to 25 more. Thank you for that again, James. I appreciate it very much. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Says, Aaron, can you play Jazzman by Carole King? I unfortunately cannot play much these days. Like I could play the alto sax a little bit, but I haven't played it in well over a decade. So unfortunately, I would not be too good at it today. And Jeremiah Dorset had sent in an email, said, what is your favorite Survivor Series of the early 2000s, 2001 or 2002? Like I said, 2002. 2001 was the end of the Alliance storyline, but they would be my favorite. Jerry Manley sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it. Oh, he's honest here. He says, been following and trolling for 11 years. Much love. Well, thank you for that, Jerry. And you're not the only one that's been trolling. We've had our fair share of trolls here on the NoDQ network, including myself, over the years. Shout out to Gilberto. You know what you've done. You know what you've done over the years for sure. And King Mike 1 with the $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, been watching since I was 14. Now I'm 25, 298. That's awesome, man. I mean, I really appreciate that you've been following along for so long. Thank you for that, King Mike 1. And Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Here we go. So we got a question here with some meat to it. Says, who would you pick for the AEW Devil? I don't think it's going to happen, but CM Punk. And people are even thinking now that it is CM Punk, that there were so many little references on AEW TV this week. The Young Bucks, their segment where Omega brought up them acting like children. Remember, CM Punk said, I work with children. And then the glass thing at the end, Jack Perry using the glass. So there was that reference. I think MJF called himself the real world champion. People are now thinking it's CM Punk. And again, I don't think it's CM Punk because I find it hard to believe that AEW would be working a lot of their talent and just fans in general. But man, that would be something else if it was CM Punk as the devil. But I don't think it's him. But you asked me, who would I pick? I'd pick CM Punk. Mr. Tito sent in a $2 super chat. He says, nothing screams pain like posting with phone modem. I remember I had the dial up and I'd hear that click. And when you heard that click, you knew you were in trouble. You knew your connection was going down. And it happened to me a lot. It was very frustrating. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat. Says, first, RIP Bray. Second, when WWE brought him back, did they not have a plan for his opponent at WrestleMania? It was rumored to be Lesnar, but then it became Lashley. I believe Lesnar was going to be the first choice, and he turned it down. So that's why they did the non-decisive finish at, I believe it was Elimination Chamber, whatever that February pay-per-view was. I've already forgotten. It's only been like 10 months, but so much has happened since. And then they were teasing the Lashley match, and then, Bray got sick, so that was off. TJS sent in a $2 super chat. sent in a $2 super chat and said, thoughts on Terry Funk as WCW commissioner, senile. Terry Funk is great, all-time legend, but unfortunately, it was not what WCW needed. Like, the last thing they needed was the old guys taking up the TV time. And when it was Terry Funk and Ric Flair out there, like, they're great, they're legends, but WCW really needed to focus on their young guys. When you had The Rock and Triple H and Mick Foley and Stone Cold on Raw, you had Terry Funk and Ric Flair taking up the spotlight. So it just wasn't good for WCW at the time, unfortunately. As much as I love Terry Funk. The Old Age Outlaws, I mean, that was so bad. That was quite awful. Anyways, guys, we're going to get to some more questions here, and I wanted to throw up another photo here real quick. This was from Chicago. This was the 20-year No DQ meetup. Virtue's there, of course, supporting Roman Reigns. We got the No DQ beach balls, which got me in trouble with at least one person that was part of the No DQ team. But yeah, great turnout. This was near... I forgot the name of the restaurant, which I hate that I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but they had great pizza. They were pretty close to the Allstate Arena. Shout out to Alexander, who's in that picture way in the back. He's come to a few No DQ meetups, so much love to him. And this was from 2016. This was in Cleveland, Ohio. This was the first time I met Virtue in person. He's right there with the Army of Darkness shirt. That was a fun little meetup in Cleveland. So yeah, let's get to some questions here. I did want to answer this one from Walter Cruz. He said, what would be your dream heel versus face 5-on-5 elimination Survivor Series match? Well, I'd put the biggest names in wrestling in the Ultimate Dream match. So I'd have Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, John Cena, and Bret Hart. 5 of the biggest good guys in wrestling history against 5 of the top bad guys. So I put maybe Andre the Giant at his peak, not 87 Andre, but like 70s Andre. I put in Shawn Michaels to go against Bret Hart. I put in Ric Flair at his peak. I put in the Viper, Randy Orton in there. And for the last guy, who would I put in? Oh, top of his game heel, Macho Man Randy Savage. There you go. That would be my ultimate 5-on-5 elimination Survivor Series match. All right, now this is an interesting question. I'm not sure if I'll be able to answer this well without thinking about it a lot. I should have done that earlier, but I do like to try and answer on the spur of the moment. But maybe some of you in the chat room could give me some input on this. So he says you grew up on wrestling. What are some moments or matches that you watched at the time and thought that people will be talking about this for a long time? It's really special. Also, do you have any of those moments from the last year or so? And on the other hand, what's a match or moment that was so bad you knew it would stand the test of time? So basically, what were moments that you knew watching, whether it was good or bad, they would stand the test of time? Definitely one of my favorite matches of all time, Steve Austin versus Bret Hart from WrestleMania 13. And on the flip side, Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior at Halloween Havoc stands out to me as like an all-time bad moment that I knew would be remembered for many years, not for being something good. And that 1998 The Rock versus Triple H ladder match at SummerSlam. I just remember watching that and I'm like, these guys are made men. And Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog at SummerSlam. I'm thinking of like the standout performances, like Edge and Christian versus the Hardys at No Mercy in the ladder match. Like those are moments where I'm like, these guys are made men. They're going to be stars for many years to come. So those are some of the ones that I can think of. And in recent years, basically the bloodline angle, like the various things we've seen with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, Royal Rumble, I think will be remembered for a long time. And when it happened, like it's just something you knew you were watching something special as it was occurring. Rage of Wrestling sent in a $5 super chat. And here's an interesting one. He says, did you ever get a question that made you say, how the hell am I supposed to answer that? Or just really stumped you from a fan? What was it? I mean, a lot more than I'd like to admit. I mean, sometimes I have to do research, like especially back in the day when I was doing the Q&As on a regular basis, like I'd have to do a little bit of research because I would just flat out not remember or not have the actual accurate information to answer the question appropriately. So it happens more often than I would like to admit, for sure. And I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but it was probably trivia related or maybe something business related. And I wanted to make sure I had the right information. Building Nexus with a $2 super chat says, WrestleMania Night 1 main event idea, belated RIP Chandler. Well, I've said it before. I'll say it again on this stream. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins for the world title on night 1. CM Punk gets his WrestleMania main event, and we get our dream match with Punk and Rollins. Have Punk go into the Hall of Fame and give him his final run. That's what I would do. But again, I'll believe it when I see it. Like I'm just not getting my hopes up on that one. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. He says, do you see Carmelo and Trick as future stars in WWE? Yes, I think both guys. Carmelo's obviously incredible in the ring, and Trick Williams, entertaining guy, and the crowd is behind him. The whole whoop that Trick. I know that did not originate in WWE. That's from a movie, but that guy's got some momentum, and I think both of them will be big stars in WWE for years to come. And James sent in a $2 super chat. Here's an old classic. Is the Attitude Era coming back? Everybody knows that was probably the number one question I was asked when I was doing the old Q&As, going back to Form Spring, to the point where it became a meme. Like anytime something happened, like a wrestler got a cut on Monday Night Raw, somebody would tweet me, is the Attitude Era coming back? Like it just became a running joke. So thank you for that classic line there, James. I appreciate it. Caleb, I'll try to find that photo. I might not be able to pull it up here unless I can find it on my computer, and it's probably in some folder somewhere. But shout out to Caleb Jacobs. I will shout him out. Very nice guy. Met him when I was living in Oregon. He's been a longtime supporter of the website. And I do want to shout out my friends in Canada. This was from 2019 at SummerSlam in Toronto. Another great city to visit. Female Aaron's sister, Amy, is there in the left. Shout out to her. And Stephen Osborne, longtime NoDQ contributor. And Noah Foster, who's been a big-time contributor to the site. And everybody in this photo, all these guys are great. Jerry Slaughter's in there too. And all the other guys in here, great guys. Shout out to all of them. And ladies, of course, in that photo. Thank you all for being part of that day. That was a great time in Toronto. I do want to get to this from Caleb Jacobs. Speaking of Caleb, he wants to know what I thought of Dean Ambrose's WWE Championship reign, and he thinks he deserved better than what he got. I would agree, but Dean Ambrose also had the world title, and he had a pretty lengthy run. I think Dean Ambrose had a great run. Like people say they understood why he went to AEW. I mean, the heel turn was terrible. The heel turn was really bad. And there were some dumb angles he did, like Mitch the Potted Plant. But for the most part, I thought Dean Ambrose had a great run in WWE. Like, yeah, he was kind of in the shadow of Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, but he had some great storylines, in my opinion. So I think overall he had a great run. Maybe he could have had a better IC title run, but that title was basically a joke during that period anyway. So doesn't matter who was holding it. It wasn't going to be taken too seriously, unfortunately. And special shout out to Psycho Jet Black, who's always super chatting, been a longtime supporter. Thank you. Says, why were some wrestlers throughout the years in WWE not allowed to turn babyface like Rusev, Wade Barrett, Jinder Mahal, Baron Corbin, and other heels? Comes down to Vince McMahon. He thinks he knows what's best for business. He even said, like, he knows what the fans want better than them. He's actually said that on TV, and I think it was a shoot when he said it. If he has his mindset on something, like, he's going to go with it. If he thinks Rusev's a great heel, Rusev's going to be a heel, whether the fans like it or not. Every once in a while, he'd go with the flow, but he didn't like when the fans would go against him. And sometimes he'd feel like, okay, this one city is being rebellious, but they're not gonna keep cheering this heel for too long. Like, it's just the one city. It's Bizarro World, like Toronto or London, England. Like, Vince would have the attitude that, well, some of these guys are great heels, and yeah, they might get cheered in one city, but it's just one city. I think that was Vince's thought process. You know, if the merchandise told a different story, then I think Vince would consider going in a different direction. TJS has another interesting super chat here. He says, who is the more credible champion, Gunther or Roman Reigns? He says, both are on the verge of losing in every match these days, but Roman relies on outside interference and Gunther ends up winning clean despite both being top heels. I think Gunther is actually the more credible champion at this point, because he's defended it more and he's been more dominant. Roman Reigns is almost like the cowardly heel champion at this point. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's been great, but he's also on that part-time schedule, and they're really overdoing it with the outside interference as far as I'm concerned. Now, David Diaz had another question here. He said, with being so popular, how come I never asked to be accredited for events when they were in my area? He says, thanks for 25 years. When I was living in LA, we did, I guess you could call it accredited. Like, we got like backstage access at PWG and some other indie promotions. And I did enjoy the experience, but after a while, like, I started to resent it because there's politics. Even at the small level, there's politics. And the more I got to know wrestlers and what was going on behind the scenes, the more I hated it. So part of me just decided to step away from that. And as far as WWE goes, I don't think they like me. I don't think I could get accredited even if I tried. Like, I'm not considered real media. And AEW, I don't know if Tony Khan likes me too much. He's more of a Dave Meltzer guy, quite frankly. But I just don't really have any desire to do it. I prefer just doing what I've been doing, giving my opinion, watching the shows, and keeping my distance a little bit. But some people like doing it, and more power to them. And TJS said, what wrestling moment were you the happiest and saddest about? Happiest was probably Mick Foley winning the world title from The Rock, just because that symbolized all the hard work that he had to go through. And he was like the most unlikely person to become WWE champion. So I was just really happy for the guy there. And Chris Jericho's debut was a great moment. just very happy for him. Anytime you could see a wrestler really get to have their moment in the sun like that's awesome. And worst moment I mentioned earlier, Owen Hart's death. Any wrestler that died, especially way too young before their time, those are the saddest moments, I think, for sure. Although he mentioned deaths don't count. So saddest, and he brought up Edge and Bryan Danielson retiring, Daniel Bryan, I should say. Yeah, I mean, those would be the saddest. I'm trying to think of like a storyline that was the saddest. Maybe Jake the Snake Roberts attacking Randy Savage with the King Cobra. That might be my saddest moment. This guy Experience sent in a $2 super chat, says, what event made you want to do No DQ for life? Probably WrestleMania 14. I mean, that was a big moment. I started not too long after that. King of the Ring. I mean, that was right around the time I first started a free website. King of the Ring was huge. Definitely that Hell in a Cell. Mick Foley being thrown off by The Undertaker. Just everything that was happening around that time. DX with X-Pac coming back. Those moments definitely motivated me to want to be able to talk with people about wrestling and share wrestling content. And I just dove into it, and it just kept growing over time. Sun Goshuaku, another great guy. Love him. He's awesome. And let me throw up this photo. This was from this year. This was SummerSlam in Detroit, Michigan. Sun Goshuaku over there on the right with Noah Foster, the Simple Man, and my wife, Caitlin. This was at Ford Field a couple of months ago. And much love to Sun. First met him in Chicago in 2018 in person. He says, name one. Okay, this is another one that I think I'm going to need your guys' help with in the chat room. So if anybody wants to throw in some commentary on this one, have at it, because I'm a little, I read this earlier and I'm still a little uncertain how I want to answer. He says, name one male and female WWE wrestler that when you first saw their look, you were impressed, but via their first match or mic work, you knew they were not going to be among your favorites. Counterwise, name one male or female WWE wrestler that when you first saw their look, you didn't think much of them, but then when you heard them talk or have a match, you knew they were the real deal. Okay, I think I got my answers for this one. So as far as initial impressions where I thought, wow, this person's impressive, but then they wrestled or they talked, and I'm like, yeah, not so much. Nathan Jones, 2003, he was a guy that looked like he was money, but then it just didn't pan out in the ring. Female wise, I mean, Kelly would be up there, like, very attractive woman, but once she got in the ring, not too much to offer. And you could really say that about a lot of the female stars from that era. I mean, they were basically models. So you look at them, you're like, I mean, this person, they're amazing, they're beautiful, but then they get in the ring and they don't know what the hell they're doing. And there's been plenty of male wrestlers too that I can think of. As far as wrestlers that I thought like, why is this person a wrestler? I mean, Eddie Kingston. You look at Eddie Kingston for the first time and you're like, okay, this is just some random guy that looks like he comes off the street. But then you see him get on the mic, and that was my impression of him, like in Impact and then NWA. Like once you hear the guy talk, you're like, holy cow, this guy can cut a promo. Ooh, Michael Wayne's got a good one for the first impression being good. Luther Reigns. Oh my God, that guy sucked. Like he looked like he'd be perfect for wrestling, but man, when he got in the ring, he shit the bed big time. awful wrestler. I mean, he's up at the top. Kozlov's another one. Vladimir Kozlov looked like money, but then once he got in the ring, it was game over. But Eddie Kingston's up there, and you could say like guys like Mick Foley. Orange Cassidy is another one where you look at him and you're like, okay, this guy's like 100 pounds, and he's doing this goofy gimmick with his hands in his pockets, but then the guy can actually work, and he's a great athlete, and he can really perform. So yeah, those are the ones I could think of off the top of my head. JJ Williams brought up Candice LeRae and Ezekiel Jackson. I disagree with Candice. I just think they're misusing her. Like the stuff she did in PWG, like I think that she's great, and she's way undervalued in WWE. I think they should be doing more with her. But great question, son. And Ricky from Connecticut said, congratulations on your anniversary. Been a fan since 99 when E-Feds were a big thing on AOL back in the day. And he says, what is my opinion on Montez Ford? He thinks that he's a diamond in the rough, and WWE is missing out something huge with him. Thinks maybe he should win the Royal Rumble. The thing is, he's great. And Dawkins is great too. But how would they function apart? Don't give up on him getting that push, because look at the Usos. They had their run. It played out, but they took their time with those guys. And then Jay got the opportunity and he shined. Like, I could see Ford 3, 4, 5 years from now being a really big deal. But give it time. Give him some time. You know, he's still pretty young. And I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. But yeah, I don't think they should have split up just yet. I think there's more value you can get in the Street Profits. And CM Punk isn't the greatest thing since sliced bread. Nice username, sent in a $2 super chat, I guess, just to get that comment out there. So there you go. Not a big CM Punk fan there. Wonder if that's a burner account for Matt or Nick Jackson. TJS had another question here. He says, hypothetically, if covering wrestling was not your career, what moment or match do you believe would have caused you to quit watching, and why? Well, there was no one segment. I mean, there was nothing that like just got me so angry. I'm like, I'm done. There wasn't any specific thing. Everything that made me lose interest over the years was gradual. It was maybe just consistent, lackluster shows. Like late 2015, I was getting very burned out on it. And actually 2001, believe it or not, starting with the Steve Austin heel turn. I mean, that's probably the closest thing to something that really turned me off of wrestling. And WCW dying, obviously, was very significant. But yeah, that period, WCW closing and Steve Austin going heel, and then just the invasion. Like 1 week I'd be like, oh my God, this is great. Like they're picking things up here with the invasion. And then the next week they turn Austin back heel. And then they start doing these really goofy segments with the Alliance. And I just turned off. So 2001 was not a great period. I almost shut the site down, actually, around that time. Like I was just so unmotivated to continue at that point. But then I had considered it, and like I was telling people that I might be done, and all these people were telling me, you got to keep going. You're doing great stuff here. Please don't go. So I kept going. So thank you to those people. Like, I don't know if any of them today or remember that, but if you go back that far enough and you were around then and you said something, you know, thank you for that. You kept me going. And the CM Punk, is it the greatest thing since sliced bread? Just wanted to hear the name live on No DQ. Thank you. Well, there you go. CM Punk is not the greatest thing since sliced bread. People out there, maybe CM Punk's not. He's all cracked up to be. So thank you for that. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, who's a wrestler that you're surprised got over? Well, what do we mean by over? Like there's different levels of over. Over just gets a pop from the crowd, or over actually drawn money. I guess Joey Ryan would be an answer I could think of. Like the whole shtick he was doing, like I never really got it. Although when I went to the shows, people were cheering it like crazy. And I'm like, well, if it works, it works. Turns out the guy was really like the character. The character and the person were one and the same. I just didn't get it. Like, I'm like, really? Really? This is what you find to be entertaining? A guy that is making people grab his crotch and then he twists them or whatever? Like, it was ridiculous. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, I recall 2015 and 2018 WWE was such bad television. 2015 was awful, especially the end of the year. Like the Roman Reigns, remember the Tater Tots segment with Sheamus? Ugh. That was a period where I was really unmotivated. I was going through a tough time personally, but also the product did not help. Like I was just very frustrated. 2018 was awful too. Like the Bailey, This Is Your Life, Bobby Lashley's sisters, that crown jewel with Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement, Baron Corbin as the constable. That was rough. That year was rough. No wonder AEW got off to a hot start, because people were, I wasn't the only one. People were sick of WWE at that point. They wanted an alternative badly, and not just NXT. Mr. Tito throwing us a little off-topic question here. Thoughts on the Beatles song Now and Then, which is a new song? I like it. I mean, it's not like top tier compared to the Beatles' greatest hits, but it's a solid effort. I thought production-wise they did a good job with it. I thought they did well with cleaning up John Lennon's voice for the song. It's good. And on repeat listens, I like it. It's a good song. Not top tier, though. But I wasn't expecting it to be a top tier song. And Walter says Katie Vick almost made him give up WWE. Like, it didn't offend me. I thought it was a stupid segment, but it wasn't like, okay, I'm done watching wrestling because of this. I just thought it was a dumb segment. And we got some more questions here I'll get to. This is an interesting one from SSBS Fanboy. Says, hey, Aaron, congrats on 25 years. Here's to another 25. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, what's the most valuable thing you've learned while running NoDQ and being on YouTube? I got one here, and that is do what you enjoy doing as far as creating content. To anybody out there, if you're not having fun with it, it's not worth doing. And keep in mind, you cannot please everybody. You want to listen to feedback, especially constructive feedback. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do, you're going to have doubters. You're going to have people saying that's not a good idea. You have to go with your gut and what makes you happy and what fulfills you. At the end of the day, that's what you got to do. So that is the most valuable thing I've learned. For so many years, I would get upset about criticism, and I'd be like, okay, I gotta make sure everybody's happy. And it's just not possible. There's no way you can make 100% of the people watching your content happy. And I know somebody watching this right now thinks, why did I tune in? This is awful. Like, why do people even bother watching this guy? It's going to happen. Somebody out there is watching this and giving it a thumbs down and saying this guy's a joke. He's a hack. It is what it is. Cannot please everybody. Just got to do your best, go with your gut, and try to have as much fun with it as possible. So thank you for that. And I apologize for butchering this name. Matthias. I'm not sure. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. And that's another thing I've learned. You're not going to be able to pronounce things, and you're going to embarrass yourself live. Like, that was another thing. When I started live streaming, I was so nervous about stuttering or misspeaking. But when it's live, it's live. You only get one take, and sometimes you have a brain fart and you forget something and you stumble over your words. It happens. It's live. You just got to keep going with it and make the most of the situation. And I'm terrible with pronouncing names, so I apologize. It's Mathias. Brian is the last name. Says, what do you think was the best and worst moments with the NWO Wolfpack in 1998? Best was getting Conan in there. I think Conan really brought a lot of credibility to the Wolfpack. Sting, I mean, I feel like they butchered Sting already so much at that point, but at least it gave him something to do. I enjoyed the Wolfpack, but the worst thing was Scott Hall. Like, turning Scott Hall heel was bad. They tried to do it for the shock value, and then they took it a step further. The whole thing with exploiting his real life problems with alcohol, when he threw up on Eric Bischoff on Nitro, that was not entertaining. Like, that was just exploiting a guy that had real problems. And I know they were trying to go with a realistic storyline, but I was not a fan of it. Did not like it. And, they did it a lot. Like, they did it with Jeff Hardy. Like, these guys are human beings. They have real problems. And I don't think it's a good idea to try and exploit these problems for TV ratings. And I remember they had Steve Austin dousing Scott Hall with beer on WWE television. I'm like, this guy's got problems. Why are you doing this? Like, it's not good for him. We got a few more super chats here. The This Guy Experience, shout out. And he's been a great contributor as well. So thank you, This Guy Experience. He's been on a few videos over the past couple of years. Says, how would you book Shane McMahon and Triple H's oldest kid in WWE? That's hard to say because I don't even know much about Shane's kid nor Triple H's kids. I mean, you definitely want them to be prepared. You don't want to throw them out there without the experience. Stephanie McMahon did all right. I think, considering her lack of experience, she did well. You might want to pattern it after her, but give them some time to prepare. Maybe behind the scenes, do some segments with people. Let them practice. So when they go out there, it already feels like they've been on TV for a while. But yeah, I would do like a big storyline for sure to introduce them, kind of like what they did with Stephanie McMahon when she started, or Shane for that matter, introducing him in the way they did with the Deadly Games and Survivor Series. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat again. Shout out to him. Says, do you fear that Damian Priest will fail to cash in Money in the Bank? I would not like to see that happen, especially after Austin Theory failed to cash in. But nothing would surprise me at this point. I think it's like 50-50, but I'm hearing good things about Damian Priest. It seems like people in WWE like the guy a lot, and maybe he'll actually be successful. But if he fails, I won't be surprised. I'll be disappointed because I think the Money in the Bank winner should successfully cash in, but I think anything's possible at this point. At Psycho Jet Black, I guess this is a current question. Says, who's your favorite lower card wrestlers in WWE and AEW? Well, Ricochet's up there. I mean, he's not the best promo, but he consistently puts on great performances. And he's more like a mid-card level guy at this point. As far as AEW goes, like, I kind of like the Righteous a little bit. Like, I think there might be something with those guys. I think right now they're a little bit too much like Bray Wyatt, but they got Jake Roberts with them now, so there might be something with them. So I would probably say them at this point, as far as who I'm liking on the lower card. WWE wise, like, it's hard to say because there's not a lot of lower card guys. Like, I feel like it's 75% mid carders, if you know what I mean. Like, they trade wins, and there's not really guys that are just there to do jobs. I mean, maybe Tozawa, but there's not many Tozawas in WWE. So it's kind of hard for me to answer that question, especially with WWE people. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, will Gable Steveson fizzle out because of no promo skills? I don't think he's going to be the next Kurt Angle. Like, the signs are not there up to this point. He's another guy that to answer that earlier question, like a guy that you look at him first time and you're like, oh my God, this guy's an Olympic gold medalist. He's going to be the next Kurt Angle. And then he's not the next Kurt Angle. So Gable Steveson very well could fit into Sun Goshuaku's question from earlier. I hope he finds his way, but, there's only one Kurt Angle. I think it was maybe unrealistic to think that Kurt Angle or Gable Steveson would be the next Kurt Angle. JJ brought up Shotzi. Shotzi's a great choice as far as like lower card. I think she's done great stuff. Like when she did the Halloween Havoc a few years ago as the guest host, I was like, she's got something. Candice LeRae is one I mentioned earlier, and she's pretty much at the bottom of the totem pole in the women's division. I think she should be way higher. Like I felt like back when she was in PWG, she could be a top star in WWE. So I'd say Candice is probably my favorite of the lower card female stars in WWE. And TJS sent in this question. He says, what is the most successful story? Oh, I already answered this. So, like I said, Pipe Bomb, WCW closing, and CM Punk quitting would be up there as the top ones. All right, Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Says, 25 years, I got to do my shtick. Like and share the video. Get a damn shirt and feel merchy. Say yeah to No DQ. You know what to do. Love you, Aaron. I guess I got to plug the shirts. Got the Say Yes to No DQ shirt. We have a lot of shirts over at NoDQ.com. We've come a long way with our t-shirts. Man, it's crazy to think that I've been doing this for 25 years. This photo right here, 1999, maybe 3 or 4 months after I started WWFWCW.com. Back when I had hair, I was 16 years old in this photo. And no, that's not Jeff Meacham on the left. I had a few people ask me that question. That is not Jeff. But yeah, a couple friends of mine from back in the day, we actually did some backyard wrestling, and then that was an experience for sure. Here's another photo. This was 2012 in Phoenix, Arizona. 2013, excuse me. 2013, because this was the Royal Rumble when The Rock beat CM Punk for the WWE title. And I want to give a shout out to Del Rios, both of them over on the left. Two great guys. I've met them several times. I'm not sure if they're watching this video, but they're awesome. I love those guys. And everybody in this photo, cool people. Shout out to Denise. She's right there in the middle with the CM Punk shirt. She's been a great friend over the years. And Ed is there right next to her. Ed, friends on Facebook, known him for many years. I can't mention everybody, but you guys are all great. And I appreciate you coming out to the meetups. And hopefully we got some more coming up. I'm looking forward to doing more in the future. Met up with some people this past summer in Detroit, and we'll definitely try to have some more take place in the future. So I think I've gotten to all the questions tonight. We went just over an hour here. So thank you to Jeff for tuning in tonight. I very much appreciate it, Jeff. And thank you to everyone for your continued support of NoDQ.com. Much love and appreciation. If you want to pick up a shirt, we have the Celebrating 25 Years of NoDQ shirt over at NoDQ.com/merch. Lots of shirts on there. Hoodies, we got hats, we got stickers. Anything you would like to buy would be very much appreciated. And that's all I got for tonight. Here's to many more Q&As, NoDQ review, and maybe some more content, maybe some new content coming up on the NoDQ.com channel. So stay tuned, subscribe at NoDQ, DOTCOM on all social media outlets. Shout out to JJ Williams. Shout out to Colin Andrew. Michael Wayne, who's usually in here. Shout out to Michael. And thank you all. I would like to mention everybody, but there's just too many to mention. Love you all. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you again for watching. And say yeah to NoDQ.com. Take care, everybody. And I will see you all next time.